All right, some of you have been asking me to do a valve clearance check video. I don't know why you're asking me. There's tons and tons of great videos on how to check your valve clearance on CRF motors, and they're all kind of the same. It's not that difficult, but since you asked, we're going to do it. Now, before we get into any of what's going on here, let's quick talk about what's going on over here. And to do this, this is my normal tool set that I carry on longer adventures. This is the tool set I carry on shorter adventures. This is like the one that lives in my backpack or in my tank bag, right? With these couple of things, I can fix just about anything. All right, so we're going to use all these tools, and then the only extra things, the only things I don't normally carry are, number one is a feeler gauge set. This I got from Rocky Mountain ATV. I had a better one back when I was a mechanic. It's since disappeared. This one runs from 0.015 inches to 0.002 inches. And they're pretty cheap, and you're going to definitely need a feeler gauge set. The other thing you need, you don't need this, you really ought to have your owner's manual. And just in case one of your valves is out of spec, you're going to need a shim kit. This is the Hot Cams one. Here's the number. None of these are specific to a bike, but they are set up in the correct range for most bikes. So this is the one I got for my Honda. Again, we're not planning on having to re-shim anything. I'm only at 8,500 miles right now. So everything should be fine. The only other specialty tool, which I carry around with me anyways, is your spark plug wrench that came with your Honda. If yours didn't come with one, go get one. You should carry it around with you on your bigger adventures. No, you don't normally need to carry this. You're not going to be changing your spark plugs out in Lockhart Basin, but if you dump your bike in the river while it's running, it's really good to have your spark plug wrench so you can take your plug out and you can drain the water out of your engine without breaking anything. So have this around somewhere, or make sure one of your friends is carrying one of these. As you can see, I've already pulled the seat and the tank off. The seat, y'all should know how to do that. The tank, can I say this? Y'all should know how to take your tank off. There's so many times you're going to need to get to your engine. Again, whether it's taking your spark plug out or whatever. I want you to get good at taking your tank off. It's super simple. It's 3 bolts for a stock tank. It's kind of a bolt and an L bracket for the IMS tank. You're going to get at it from this side. You're going to reach up underneath and unplug the wire. Right, this runs your fuel pump and also carries a signal back to when your tank is low. It's just you push on the side, it comes out. This wraps around, it has a plastic cover over it and a rubber cover. From underneath you can pull those off. You unlock it by pulling this little green tabber down, and then it's got wings on the outside so that you can pull it off. Again, this is all, you just reach up underneath your tank from here, and once that's off, the whole thing just comes out. It's pretty much that simple. All right, once you get your tank off, the next thing you're going to do is, if you have an air hose or buy one of those can of spray air thingies, you're going to come in here and you're going to clean all the dust out. You're going to clean off your engine cover and all this around it, because what's going to happen is, as you pull all this stuff out, if you got any dirt or dust, it's going to fall down inside the cover and that's kind of bad. That's kind of what we're aiming not to have happen. So I've already blown this off. I hosed it down as best I could. If you all know anything about me, you know I'm not the best at cleaning my bike constantly. Some of you guys got some really shiny motorcycles out there, and I'm impressed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull a spark plug. You're going to take your spark plug wrench. Now, spark plug sockets have a rubber donut in there. And what that does is it keeps your spark plug from just falling out when you loosen it up and pick it out. If it falls out, what's going to happen is you're going to screw up your gap, and then you're going to have to re-gap it. While it's out, we're going to take a quick look at it. This is kind of a dark gray, not black. It looks just fine. The electrodes look fine. Right, if it's super white, which if you're running a stock bike, this is probably a light gray. That's fine too, as long as it's not like black or too white. And while we got this out, if you want to check the gap should be 0.08 to 0.09 millimeters. Get yourself a good spark plug gapper, preferably the wire kind, and not those little cheesy ramp kinds. So if I want to check this while I'm out, if I do the 0.015, 0.014, and the 0.012, right, that's my minimum of 0.031, and gently, and it fits in there. And then to check that it's not too, and that's actually pretty snug. And then to check that it's not too big of a gap, right, I would just change the 0.02 to, let's see, what's 5 more, 0.07. Next, we're going to remove the breather tube. Then with a 6 millimeter Allen, we're going to take the cover bolts off. And now the only thing holding the cover on right now is stiction from the gasket, and there's a rubber O-ring around where the spark plug goes in, and that kind of keeps it from moving down too. Comes off pretty easy. I'm going to bring this up. And now, just to show you, here's the gasket, right? Gasket looks fine. There's the gasket for your spark plug. That looks good too. Okay. The next thing we need to do is to get the cam in the right position. And in order to do that, if you have a stock bike, you have a crankcase cover, the plastic thing, that has to come off. And that'll get you to this little cap. And you're going to take your 10 millimeter wrench, which is the same size as the one you use for your oil drain, and you're going to pull that cap off. See if I can do this with one hand. There we go. I meant to do that. Right, there we go. Now this has an O-ring on it, so just make sure that O-ring looks all right. And this doesn't look bad. All right, we got the cap off. Can you see this little mark right there, that little piece that hangs down? There's a gear behind this that's almost impossible to see on this video, but we're going to turn this with our 8 millimeter clockwise until that T and that mark. We're going to turn this clockwise until that T on the gear and this mark up here line up. So to help me do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a wrench on the end of this. Now, if you come up here, okay, you come up here, see the cam, see the little decompressor weight? That needs to face over here on this side. And that'll get you, should be pretty close. So I'm going to turn that clockwise. See how that's turning up here? Whoop, and it flipped over. And we're going to turn it again. And now, it's impossible to see on this video. It's absolutely impossible. There's the mark, but on this gear in the back is a T. And the T is lined up with the mark right here. Although I don't think you can see it. The decompressor weight is in the right position. So the next thing we're going to check is we're going to come around over here. We're going to make sure that on the cam wheel, oh, they're not quite perfect. Can you see the split back here? There's a mark and a mark, and those marks have to be pretty much level, lining up with that. So we're gonna go over and turn it forward just a little bit more. All right, I'm gonna turn this clockwise, and that's gonna move a little bit. We can come back around. And now this mark and this mark are lined up with the split in the case in the back here. You see right above my Allen wrench? They're not perfect. Right, this and this are pretty close. Okay. If you want them perfect, you could spend all day on this, I think. Here, we'll scooch it forward just a little more. For the perfectionists out there. There we go. Now do you see how they're lined up? Got the mark here, lined up with the split in the cover back there. Okay. There we go. Now we are top dead center on the compression side. All right, we've got everything lined up now. Now the next thing to do is to actually take some measurements. So if you don't have a book, here's a good place to pause. We're going to do the exhaust valves first. And, right, so your exhaust valve should be 0.11 plus or minus 0.01. Okay? Now, here are my last couple. I just keep writing it down in here. I'll write it out here where you can see it. So we have the exhaust, and you're going to have the left and right. So, when you're looking inside, it's pretty simple. There's your exhaust pipe. These two are your exhaust valves. Right? Your intake valves are, we'll get to them, they're over here. But let's do the exhaust first because they're right there and they're easy to see. The last time I checked my exhaust, they were left and right, they were both 0.010, so they were a little under, but they're well within spec. So we're going to pull out 0.11 and 10. There we go. So I'm going to go start with the smaller one and make sure that goes in. This is what it was last time at 5,300 miles. Again, we're at 8,500 miles. So right, here's your rocker. Here's the valve. And then the shim is this little round thing right there. So with a feeler gauge, all we're going to do is slide it in. And we don't want to force it. Right? That's a little tight, but it goes in. And then just to double check, I'm sure the 11 won't go in. But this is now the 0.09. And the 09 goes in super easy. So, okay, if you've never used one of these before, all I'm doing is putting it in there and feeling the drag. There's got to be drag. Number one, if you have to force it to go between the rocker arm and the shim, then it's way too tight. Right? You shouldn't force it. These shouldn't be bending all over the place. It should just go in. If it goes in and there's no resistance whatsoever, then it's too small and you need to go to a larger size. So I'm going to call that good at 0.10. So that was the right hand one is 0, 1, 0. Okay, now let's do the other side. And same deal. You just slide the shim between the rocker and the shim. There we go. Sorry, it's really hard to do this left-handed. And there it is. That feels pretty good. It's a little looser than the other side, but not bad. So I'm going to actually try the 0.11 to see if it's actually gone up. It's easier to start small and go big till they don't fit than to go the other way around, in my opinion. Okay, so here's the 0.11, and that, it started in, but it's really, really tight. All right. Oh, yeah, that's too tight, but there we go. So I'm going to call that good again. Okay, now we're going to do the intake, left, right. And the intake clearance should be 0.04 plus or minus 1/1000, right? 0.004 plus or minus 0.001. Okay, last time on mine, they were 0.03 and 0.04 left and right. So let's see what they are this time. So in order to do the intake valves, you can see the rocker arms are here, and here's the other end of the other one, this dark gray part right here. And you have to get this guy right in there. I say right in there, and then I stuff my hand right in front of the camera so you can't see shit. Okay. So in order to measure those, you need to get the shim right in there. I don't know if you can see where the rocker arm and the lobe are. So if you see that flat spot right here, that's the top of the rocker arm. So you're going to put the shim right on that flat spot. It's really small, and then the lobe of the cam is right above it. So this needs to go right there. See how it goes in? There we go. And then once you feel the drag, that's 0.03. So the left one's, that's a little drag, not a whole lot. Let's try the 4. There we go, right there. Which is what it was the last time. The last time the right hand one was 0.04, so let's try to get that in there. No, 0.04 to, right, so we're still in spec. All right, next up, the valve cover goes back in. Make sure your gasket's all there. Right. And the only thing to be careful of is the spark plug hole gasket. Make sure that doesn't pop out when you put this back in. Okay, we're just going to work that over. Nice and flat. Put our cover bolts back on. Okay. Next thing is our spark plug goes back in. This is where it's good to have a real spark plug wrench that has a rubber donut in the bottom, right? That way when you put your spark plug back in and lock it in, it won't fall out. What happens is if it falls out, the electrode will probably smack something down in the bottom of the hole and it'll close up a little bit on you. So when you put that in, just go in real easy, right? Keep it centered. And then the spark plug gets torqued to 16 foot-pounds, which is snug and a half. Put your spark plug wire back on. Make sure it clicks. If you forget to do that, you're going to be really sad. Vent cover. Oh, sorry. Vent hose back on. You're good to go. It's just that easy. And if you were keeping count, it's like 3 Allen wrenches and a spark plug wrench. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really not that hard. The hardest part is checking that the intake clearance is it's a little hard. You got to kind of finesse it in there and play around with it, but a little practice, you'll get it. And there you go. That's how easy it is. Again, you guys should really be doing this if you're not, just to get familiar with where all the bits and pieces of your bike are, in case one of these days you really need to know. 8,500 miles, and all right, I hope that made sense to everybody and we learned something, and you guys will go out and do it. And maybe when I hit 20 or 30,000 miles and this thing actually needs to be shimmed, I'll make a video on how to fix the clearance if it's off. All right, as always, thank you guys so much for watching.